Here we go. Another day, another trade, because today we are talking about the idea of Trevor Zegras and the Montreal Canadiens. Because now that the 2024 draft lottery is complete, we had ourselves some extra discussions brought upon Montreal Sports Talk TV, going over the link and just debating whether or not this would be a good idea and what other assets could be involved. Now, I don't know why exactly this is coming up after the draft lottery in particular, because look, it's not like the Canadiens' fate changed. They're still drafting 5th overall like everybody thought they would. But if we take a look at this article published yesterday on TVA Sports, you had the folks over on the JIC show go out there and discuss this. A trade involving Trevor Zegras and the 5th overall pick? The article will be linked in the description, but it pretty much transcribes what was said on the program. Take a look at this. Several options are available to the Montreal Canadiens, who have known since Tuesday evening that they'll be drafting 5th overall in the next draft. Jean-Charles Lajoie also made an interesting proposal during the Colisée segment with Tony Marinaro on the JIC show Wednesday on TVA Sports. Anaheim could be tempted to do a double take. If the Ducks call you and you're Kent Hughes and they say, listen, I'm going to draft 3rd overall, then I'll give you Trevor Zegras for the 5th overall pick. Would you do this? He asked his colleague. The latter seemed doubtful at the idea of seeing the Habs give up the 5th overall pick for Trevor Zegras. I tell you no, Tony Marinaro replied. I'm not even convinced of my answer. And listen to my logic in that. Anaheim, in my opinion, has the 3 best prospects in the NHL. If you trade your 5th pick and they get a TJ Ginla in addition to Ivan Demidov at 3rd, for example, how are you going to be able to beat this team one day? They already have the best young players. Trevor Zegras has a very good agreement for another 2 years, added JIC. It fits well. I tell you, it works. We really like him in Montreal, and he's a good friend of Cole Caulfield. This season, the guy scored 9 assists, 6 goals, 15 points, 31 games. Now, I just kind of read what was said here, but I did think it was interesting enough to bring up because not only is Trevor Zegras a name that is valuable, but you could say he may be a little bit less valuable than what he was worth a few months ago, before this season, last year even, before he went through this entire weird slump with the Anaheim Ducks. He was injured for the majority of the year. He didn't have a training camp. He went from back-to-back 60-point seasons with Anaheim in 21-22 and 22-23 to a 15-point year in 31 games this season. He's also suiting up for Team USA at the World Championships. He's reunited with Cole Caulfield, and there was a video going around of Zegras hugging Slafkovsky upon seeing him for the first time outside the rink. It was really cool, a nice bro moment between two guys that we didn't really think would actually be friends. But Trevor Zegras for the 5th overall pick certainly would ruffle up the hockey world because, as the article says, it would give Anaheim a stellar opportunity at the 2024 NHL Draft. Getting the 3rd overall pick, which is what they got because they stayed in that draft position, as well as number 5, would be exactly the same as what we had seen out of the Ottawa Senators in 2020. With their picks, they ended up taking Tim Stützle with the 3rd overall pick and Jake Sanderson with the 5th overall pick. And that ended up becoming a super, super good pairing of young guys taken by the same organization. Now, there was a little bit of luck there because the second first that the Ottawa Senators got was from the San Jose Sharks, and the Sharks were terrible that season. It's kind of the dangers of trading away first-round picks if your team is not guaranteed to being good, isn't it? But the Ottawa Senators lucked into that position. And now, you take a look at Stu and Sanderson, they're doing fantastic things with the Sens. Could you see the Anaheim Ducks do something similar, but have this be just an extra part of their already stellar young prospect core? Take a look at the guys even outside of Trevor Zegras. We always talk about the big 3, McTavish, Carlsson, and Cutter Gauthier now. 3 of the best young players in the NHL and prospects in the system. On defense, you've got Tristan Luneau, one of the top players in the QMJHL for points. You had Pavel Mintyukov, who was one of the top players in the OHL for points, and then you had Olen Zellweger from the WHL. The Anaheim Ducks literally had the 3 best defensemen in each of the junior leagues in one season's worth of play. They were all Anaheim Ducks property. Now, you can debate whether or not one or two or three of them are actually going to become full-time NHL players in the next little while, but just having that cupboard packed to the brim with talent is already stellar. So could the Ducks afford to trade away a Trevor Zegras and get themselves yet another top 5 forward in this year's draft? Now, I'd say from a talent evaluation perspective, if you're Montreal and you're thinking about the 5th overall pick, obviously we kind of see Kent Hughes is building this team towards being competitive within the relative short term. Like, whatever it is you're drafting at 5, that guy's probably not going to become an NHL player until, let's say, 2025, 2026. And he's not going to become maybe a good NHL player until a year or two after that. That, of course, is just a very conservative estimate. I don't want to go out there and immediately say that the 5th overall guy is going to be fantastic. But if the Montreal Canadiens are a little bit impatient, which I don't want to say is a bad thing necessarily, they have had enough younger guys take steps in the past year or so that you could say, okay, maybe it's time to go that Detroit Red Wings route and start contending, slowly pushing for a playoff spot. Maybe trading away a 5th overall pick, because the 5th overall pick is not going to be helpful to your team until 2026, pretty much, for Trevor Zegras, who can be helpful for your team now, who also has chemistry with Cole Caulfield and apparently Slafkovsky too. Screw the Anaheim Ducks. Like, they're all the way in the West. Who cares about that? Maybe it's worth it for Montreal. Because what I'm gathering from the JIC segment is pretty much the fear of other teams is preventing Montreal from thinking about this. Hey, Anaheim is already so good, they have so many young pieces, why would we add yet another guy? And the thing is, I mean, I think that sort of thought process discredits what Trevor Zegras is worth, because he himself is a fairly young guy. I mean, he's 22, 23 years old, he still has room to grow, and realistically, this season being as bad as it was for him isn't going to indicate how the rest of his career is going to turn out. I mean, with a full training camp, with a full summer, and with 82 games, we probably see Trevor Zegras playing a lot better and producing more points, right? So, would Montreal be in a better position to take advantage of that and send over a 5th overall pick in the process, even if it means sacrificing the long-term potential of a Demidov or a TJ Ginla or a Berkeley Catton or whomever else would be available at 5 that the Canadiens could draft instead? This would be a nice addition that helps out the team right away, but is it worth it? Some of the folks on JIC say no. I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What are your opinions on the idea of a Trevor Zegras trade? Maybe just 1-for-1 even, for Zegras and the 5th overall pick. If it's Montreal and Anaheim debating this, who says yes and who says no? Do you think the Anaheim Ducks bite at this if they get it immediately? Because, hey, Zegras is a guy that we've kind of been thinking about trading for a while, and all of a sudden Montreal's asking for him and they're giving us the 5th overall pick. Yeah, we got to take it. Or do you think the Ducks say no? Zegras is worth more than that. I think out of all the guys in the top 5, you could say that Zegras and his skill set is very unique, of course, but there may be room to believe that some of the 5th overall guys might actually have higher ceilings. Who really knows? So is it worth it for Anaheim? Is it worth it for Montreal? Who says yes? Who says no? And what are your personal opinions about this from the perspective of these teams? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Article will be linked in the description if you want to go ahead and read more about this, and I think the episode is linked too if you wanted to see that, which I don't know if you will if you don't speak French, but thoughts in the comment section either way. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.